We are live.
Live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Peak Prosper Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Scott from Peak Prosper, and I'm joined today by my good friend, an amazing business owner, and a world-class rock climber from Ouray, Colorado, Logan Tyler. Logan, would you please take a moment to introduce yourself, man?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Scott. I'm Logan Tyler, one of the owners of Base Camp Ouray, a world-class guiding service and climbing gym located here in southwestern corner of Colorado. And yeah, avid climber. Going through the experience of running this business and being an entrepreneur, and just super psyched to go through this today, man.
Logan, well, I'm super stoked, grateful, and honored to have you on our show today to talk a lot and in depth about the topic that you and I have both been very intimately studying recently called Flowstate. And for those listening, Flowstate is that optimal state of psychological and physiological performance where you perform your best and you do your best work seemingly with effortless ease. Logan, can you share with us a little bit more about flow state and what it is and what it means to you?
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. I think that being involved in climbing, I've been climbing for over 20 years now, and I teach a lot of climbing, guide a lot of climbing. And something that I often hear people say is, oh, when I'm climbing, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just totally focused on the present. And especially when you're beginning as a climber, your accessibility to flow state is actually very, very high. It's very easy to get into flow state. And what I've realized is that, as we climb, we climb more, and as we progress as climbers, sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to get into that flow state because we find ourselves more and more comfortable. And so, as I've progressed as a climber and as a business owner, I've definitely seen that flow state is this kind of holy grail that we all kind of chase. And at first, you don't really know what it is. But basically, as I see it, and I think as most climbers see it, is you're just completely focused in the present, move by move, total dedication to what you're doing. And in that place, your mind is almost in a state of hyper focus, and you're not distracted by anything else in your life. You're simply existing. And I think, as we all know, that can be very difficult to get into that headspace. And so when you're in flow, you don't even really know it, and it's only till afterwards do you really reap the benefits of that. So that's kind of my experience with flow. It's something that I've always kind of chased, and when I'm in it, I'm just very grateful for that.
Yeah, as adventure athletes, I think we're always chasing the stoke, right? That
Oh yeah.
shot of adrenaline and ultimate dopamine hit where we're brought into that pure place of bliss and presence where nothing else matters. All our worries melt away and we are able to perform at our peak. Logan, I'm curious how you take your experience rock climbing and tapping into flow through such a high flow activity, we call it, and translate that to business so that you've been empowered with the mindset that's necessary to scale your business to six figures now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that the parallels between climbing a hard route and running a successful business are endless. I think that like climbing, the success in business is really built on a series of very small failures. But every time you learn, right? And just like climbing, oftentimes, I'll fall off of a route 10, 15 times before I finally send it. And that's the same with business, right? You try something out, that doesn't work. You run a promotion, people aren't receptive. It's these series of failures, but you start to find these little successes. Oh, that hold felt a little better, or oh, that promotion worked a little bit better, or having the open sign over here versus over there. These are small incremental things that you don't think really make a big difference, but when you look at it on the macro, you really see substantial change and improvement. So, I think that that's something that I am often aware of, is that there are plenty of opportunities to become distracted, and something that I see a lot of entrepreneurs kind of fall into is they start doing one thing and that starts to work out a little bit. But instead of seeing that through, or let's call it clipping the chains, they jump over to another route, right? Or another business or another opportunity. And so I think that, it does require a certain level of discipline to try to stay the course. And, I think that most entrepreneurs have, they're always looking for opportunities, but sometimes, and to bring it back to climbing, sometimes trying to, change your beta every time you try the route ain't going to help you send. That really it's best to just try to stay focused on one thing at a time. And I think that that's really key, because you really can't get into a flow if you don't have a little bit of discipline and some consistency to see those results.
I love that. I think we're talking about taking like a macro view of some big project and breaking that down into really small, clear goals, and the daily habits, the little daily actions that may be seemingly trivial, but add up to monumental things over time. So, Logan, I'm curious, what are like one or two of those little things you do on a daily basis that may be so seemingly trivial and not matter, but they are actually really important to optimal performance?
Well, we were kind of talking about this earlier, and I don't know, it's hard to see behind me. It's a little washed out, but that window is spotless. I hope, I feel bad for the birds. I hope nobody flies into it, but I'll tell you, that's one small thing, right? Cleaning these windows, it's oftentimes very easy to overlook. And, running a successful guiding business, I walk in here at 7:38 in the morning and it's crazy. We got clients going in and out, we're renting gear, right? There's a lot of chaos in there. But by bringing a little bit of order to that world, it's monumental. I will say that there is a direct correlation between, and I could prove this time and time again, between cleaning the gym, maybe, obviously vacuuming the mats and doing all of that, cleaning these windows, keeping the bathroom clean, and membership retention and sales. So again, you can never underestimate the small things. Something that I thought was so profound with, working with you for the last 2 years. And when you actually came to my business and we just kind of went through and cleaned everything, immediately the environment changed and customers were receptive to that. Now, they didn't know what it was like before, but damn, did they know what it was when they walked in. And, I think that we often underestimate people's perception of quality. People are so receptive, and in my business, I'm selling trust. I mean, people have to trust me and my guides to take them out and show them an awesome adventure. But those small things matter. The way that our bathroom is kept is a direct indicator of our level of professionalism. So, we always have to be aware of that. And these small things, cleaning the windows, making sure the bathroom's clean, how you present yourself to those people, those things matter. And it's easy to wash those out because, again, you get sucked into, okay, this is our business and this is our service offering. But that's really predicated on the customer's comfort level with you. I mean, I think regardless of what business you're in, you are selling yourself and you're selling a certain amount of trust. And so those little actions go a long way to really bring value to your customers and, most importantly, to yourself.
Yeah, and Logan, who would have thought we'd be talking about cleaning toilets and cleaning windows and video about Flowstate and peak performance, dude?
Yeah, no, really, it's crazy, man. It is.
One thing that I've learned is that Flowstate and just feeling good about ourselves as individuals requires this wonderful harmony of purpose and passion and an ever-growing curiosity for life. And Logan, you're this glaring example of someone who has managed to monetize one of their greatest passions of climbing in life. And I'm just curious if you can share with our listeners how you found this passion and how you came up with this amazing idea of base camp climbing and guiding.
Yeah, it's funny. I would say that in some ways the passion found me. Climbing has never, I've never really had a choice. I was born in this mountain town. My stepdad moved here from Texas when I was like 9 years old and drugged me out climbing. And despite maybe my best efforts, I haven't been able to stop. And so be careful. But no, I mean, you're right. Like base camp, this business, and really my passion behind it. I would say it was a very organic thing. It came about by many factors and kind of the path that life led me down. That being said, I think that I definitely had a vision for what I wanted, and with the right amount of grit and determination, and like you said, curiosity, just to see what if, how far can I, what could be, asking myself those questions and not veering away from fear, but leaning into that fear has really brought me to where I'm at. And I think that, at the end of the day, passion, although is a very powerful tool, which you need, passion also can be a double-edged sword. And so you really have to be assessing that, because, I'm a very passionate person. I get very excited about climbing and about what we're doing in this business that I've built. But I also have to remember that it leaves a certain amount of emotional vulnerability, and not so much to, from the customer to me, but from me to my inner desires and wants and needs. And so, I think that, again, although passion is critical to believing in a business that you're building from the ground up, you have to be able to, constantly reevaluate and assess that passion, because passion is a very strong emotion, and strong emotions can sometimes veer you away. So it's a constant check and balance of, although my passion's leading me forward, it is also allowing me to be pretty critical onto myself, and that can have negative effects. So I think, when we say the word passion, a lot of people think, oh, that's a positive thing, he's so passionate. But I've also been criticized for being too passionate. So, you take it as it comes. And, sometimes passion can bite you in the butt, but most of the time, it's definitely the grease for the gears,
Logan, through all those peaks and valleys, the ups and downs that you experience as a climber, an entrepreneur, a husband to your awesome wife, how do you keep the passion and the stoke alive, man?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's a great question, Scott. Like, I think it's like something that I see in the outdoor industry, and especially with climbers, is like everybody's stoked. Oh, I'm so stoked. Everything's good. I'm so stoked. That's an outward projection. The reality is some days I'm not stoked. Some days my passion is low. Some days are hard, right? Like a lot of people say, oh, you're a mountain guide, you get to be outside every day. It must be so great. Well, like 90% of it is, but that 10% can really eat you up. And for me, it's like, I feel grateful for the opportunities that have been in my life. And, I count the small wins, right? Like, I think as a business owner, and I think most other entrepreneurs and business owners would relate to this, like reviews go a long way. And any business owner that doesn't pay attention to their reviews has got a long road ahead. And, when we get a good review, it feels great. There is that that reassurance that what we're delivering to these people is changing their lives, and yesterday I guided a bunch of these kids from a local nonprofit Voyager youth program. And, those kids in that moment were having fun. They were in it. They were climbing, they were a part of it. And I thought that was a really beautiful thing, and that made me feel really good at the end of the day that, I impacted their life in a positive way. And so I think that, something I constantly remind myself of is that life is a team sport. And as we give to people, we also get from them. And that exchange, I think, is really valuable. And so I try to bring it back to that, that my passion and drive, these are all things that I'm externally projecting, but I'm also receiving the reassurance and the guidance from other people, whether they're aware of it or not, that I am on the right path. And so I think that, you have to seek justification for your actions in things outside of monetary gain or power or control. You have to look at the bigger picture and really, remind yourself that for me in my business, I mean, what I'm delivering to people is usually the best part about their vacation or their trip. And these are creating memories that'll last for a lifetime. And so those are the kind of things that I tend to lean on when I'm feeling a little bit down, because, some days my best is up here and some days it's down here. And, that's really a matter of choice, and really thinking about the emotions behind your decision making.
Logan, when we first started our conversation today, I introed you and said you're a world-class climber. You really are. You've climbed 513. I'd love to hear more about that today, but you followed that and said we have this world-class climbing and guiding company in a little town of Ouray, Colorado. And when you and I first met a couple of years ago, I don't even know if you had a Google page, but you certainly had 0 reviews. And last I checked, I think you have like 130 5-star reviews on Google. Yeah. I have no idea what it is now. I'd love to hear how many reviews you have now and how staying present with your clients and creating these amazing experiences influences that positive outcome.
Absolutely. I mean, our mission statement for Basecamp is it's about connecting people to the epic outdoors, to other adventurers, and to themselves. And climbing is just the catalyst, and that statement kind of says it all, right? In this business, and maybe the reviews are reflective of this, we focus a lot here at Basecamp about a positive working culture and environment. So, where that really starts is, every element of this business I've been involved in. I mean, today I'm working the front desk and I'll be cleaning the bathrooms and, then out guiding. And so I think that the point of all that is that through a positive working culture and empowering the people that work with you and like the guides that work for me, it translates to the experience. And so for me, I'm less concerned about maybe a guide's high level certifications and what classes they took. I want to know how you connect to people. How do you deal with fear? What things drive you to be the best person that you can be? And so those kind of, we'll call them emotional intelligence, those attributes are really, I think, what lend itself to such a positive response from our customers. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but point being is that, the reviews are indicative of how I treat every employee that works for Basecamp and how they then treat all of our guests. So it's very synergetic that way. And I think that, just really focusing on not necessarily the technical aspects of guiding, but the emotional aspects of guiding and what that means is really been the key to our success.
Logan, how do you keep such a big team that you have now and yourself on track and operating in such a harmonious way on a daily basis? The reason I ask that is because it almost seems as though you've created this culture and this environment that is literally operating in flow.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's just being human with people. When we bring on a guide, we want to know what his goals are and what he wants, and that really comes back to self-actualization. And what that means in business is that if I help the people around me be successful, they will help me be successful. And so it's really about, empowering and educating not only our employees so that they can do their job at a high level, but also the clients, and I think that guiding, and there's still so much more to learn about what is guiding, but I think that, that is ultimately our goal, is that we want to empower and educate our clients to be able to go out and do these things for themselves. And so I think that, a big part of the company's culture and why we've been able to, hold on to the guides that we have and are appealing for other guides is simply because, we value them as human beings first, then as guides or commodities of the business second. And that's very key. I think that they need to know that I'm genuinely invested in their success, so that they will genuinely be invested in my success. Again, I mean, it comes down to small things. I thank my guides every single time they walk out the door. I don't care if they just walk back in and walk back out. I thank them, and I look them in the eyes and I tell them that I thank them. When we pay them, I send a message to each one, letting them know that I appreciate their hard work. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with who gets paid more or anything like that. It's just strictly about letting them know that we care about them. I will say that a big part of our success is by bringing in a business partner. Charlie Faust has been huge to our success. And he came from a guiding world and from a different guiding company. And, he brought a lot to this place. And so for me, that was a process of kind of letting go, and I think as a business owner and a founder of this company, that was really difficult for me, but I'm learning through that process of letting go that, oftentimes, we gain a lot more than we perceive that we're losing, if that makes sense. So I think really it's just about, treating people sincerely, being genuine with them, making sure that they feel appreciated, making sure that they feel heard, that they're a part of the solution. And maybe if they're a part of the problem, really asking, okay, in climbing, we have this term, right? We say, and I say this to clients all the time, be careful what rocks you're grabbing. You have to ask yourself, is it of the mountain, meaning that it's a good handhold, or is it on the mountain, meaning that it's going to fall off? And what that means to us in the business world is like, if a problem arises with an employee or a guide, is it on the mountain? Is it base camp's fault? Is it a system fault? Or I'm sorry, is it of the mountain? Is that a system issue? Or is it on a loose rock? Is it the guide making a mistake? Mm-hmm. Either way, the consequences is not solely directed at the guide. It's at the company. And that's been a process for me, learning that although everything is my fault, it's an opportunity to change and improve. And I think that that's a very important part to building a positive work environment, is that they need to know that if there is an issue, they can come to me or Charlie and come to us and we can figure out a better opportunity for change, and not to, just make them feel bad about their actions. Because at the end of the day, everybody that shows up to work, most people want to do a good job. So I think that, making sure that they feel understood and that we have their back, and if there is a problem, that we're going to do what we can to find a positive solution, goes a long way versus creating a hostile work environment where people don't feel like they can come to you with an issue. So I think that really plays a lot into it.
Man, Logan, you just shared with us so much insight. There were two really key words that stuck out to me, and those were just letting go. Yeah. And in my own life, whether it's in the mountains or in business or even in my relationship with my wife, it seems as though the more I resist, the more the problem or the crux persists. And as soon as I just let go of this perceptual need to succeed or be right or solve the problem right now, as soon as I step away from that, the solution seems to show up. And I'm curious how you implement the principle of letting go in your own life, in your business, or even in the mountains when you're trying to climb these really complex routes. I mean, you said it yourself that you'll go try a route and maybe you'll whip on that route 10, 15, 25 times before you actually send it. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about letting go from you.
Yeah, letting go. I think that it's kind of two parts. I think that letting go means letting go of expectation. That's key. I think that when we become fixated on the expectation, and this is something that I am guilty of, and I see a lot of climbers, especially ones that are climbing hard, they say this: I should be climbing this route. I should be. I climbed this other route. I should be climbing this route. I should be climbing this hard. Expectations are dangerous. They're very important. Goals are very important. I'm not going to discredit that by any means, but self-imposed expectations often lead to self-critical thoughts, and that's why I say it's dangerous. the best climbing that I've ever done are usually, and the times that I usually send is when I've let go of expectation. I'm like, it's the end of the day, I'm tired, I've fallen off this thing, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to give it a go. And that's when I send. And, I think that that's indicative of so many different things in life, like you said, especially in relationships. I'm so lucky to be married to this amazing woman who puts up with all my shit, and and shout out to Becca for that. But it always sometimes it feels that what you want from your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever relationship you're in, you're failing to give. Right. And that takes a certain amount of introspection, which some people can do easily and some it's more difficult. But I think that that's, really what it ties into to letting go is letting go of the expectation of controlling the outcome. And that seems simplistic on the outside, but that's a very difficult journey. And it's very hard to catch yourself in those moments and say, okay, am I trying to control this because of my perceived expectation, or am I actually allowing reality to unfold as it should? And I oftentimes that from a place of observation rather than persistent control for an expectation, my perception is much more clear. So, I think letting go is super powerful. That's not to say that, okay, I'm just going to throw my sail up and wherever the wind takes me is where I go. That could be equally destructive, but understanding and being grateful for the present moment that you're in, goes a long way. I think that when we distill our actions, whether it's in climbing or in business, to the present moment, that's when we do our best work. So I would say that for me, letting go is really a process of letting go of expectation and embracing the outcome, regardless if it's what you wanted or not. Because you can chase power all day long. It doesn't mean you're powerful.
Logan, what we're really talking about today is the present and flow state, and bringing all of these principles and different things that we've talked about today to actually create this as a possibility in our own lives. And I'm curious what you've instilled in your own life that you do on a weekly and maybe even a daily basis as rituals to keep you in this place of flow, or so that you can almost optimize your own flow state.
Yeah, that's been a long road, Scott, and obviously working with you and Peak Prosper has been paramount to that success. Which is, I say the word success because there are periods of success. And something that you've really helped me understand is this idea of peaks and valleys, right? And that the path to success is not a linear path by any means. So I think that the ritualistic for me, or the rituals that really help me embrace that journey, really start in humility, being grateful for the things that I have in my life, and not really focusing on what I don't have, but trying to focus on what I do have. Like you said, like when we started working together, man, I was in a tough spot. I had, basically I was starting this business. I was about to get married. Like I was way out there, and, we've slowly built that up. And so now I take time for reflection. And, when I leave base camp, I often look at it, and the thought in my head is, oh, thank you, thanks for being there. And really just like trying to instill a sense of humility that is also met with, congratulating yourself on the successes that you do have. It's a constant balance. You don't want to become disconnected with the reality. And like you said, I mean, flow state is so much about being present. And I think that, really just making the time for yourself and being aware of how you speak to yourself. I mean, everybody has this constant internal dialect, and we spend more time talking to ourselves than we do out loud. And I guess the biggest overarching element to this for me is being aware of how I speak to myself. It's very easy to compare yourself to other people, your competitors, other climbers. And I think that, on the outside, people say, oh, you're so successful, you're doing this thing, this is great. And I need to learn to just appreciate that, and also know that, although there is struggle internally to constantly be better and improve myself, that I have come a long way from where I was. And, I've battled addiction and all kinds of issues throughout my life. And, here I am today. I'm here. I'm awake. I'm at a business that is thriving. I'm wearing my sweet gear. Like, these are all big successes, and they've definitely came out of a lot of failures. But really, just stopping and looking back at where you've come from, and just appreciating the journey, although it has its ups and downs. It's been a really amazing ride. So I try to ground myself in that.
Such an important message. I mean, what I'm hearing you say is that the inner precedes the outer desire that we have to manifest a brand on a hat, or sitting in our own office, or whatever it might be. Really, that inner work is foundational to creating our outer desires. And I'm curious, as we kind of get closer to the end of our conversation today, how you use climbing as a conduit to inspire flow state in your life outside of climbing. See, climbing is such a fabulous sport that, at least in my experience, it pushes me physically, mentally, and brings me into such a state of pure presence that the past and the future seem to just melt away. But that's harder when we're back in our office or in our climbing gym, and we have the internet. We can click this thing or go to that thing, or we future trip or go to the past and create our own inner suffering. But I'm curious how you've worked climbing into your weekly ritual as something that's really foundational to keeping yourself level outside of the mountains.
Yeah, absolutely. You use the word foundational, and that's the key right there. I was actually talking to Mike Morelli the other day about, just about time management, right? And how that plays into it. And I think that, climbing for me is really when I do my best thinking, is usually like post flow state. So after a good hard session where I've just, the phone's off, I'm out there with my buddy, we're both just trying like hell. That definitely induces a state of flow. And then after that, I can sit down and think objectively about my business. So, create space, flow. And then, once I kind of been engulfed in a flow state, that's when I can really tap into a lot of my creativity. And that, I often refer to it as like this well of creativity. And, you have to replenish the well. If you're always pulling from it, you'll run out of juice. So, for me, climbing puts me into a state to objectively think about my business outside of the business environment. And whether that's climbing or walking or bowling or whatever you got to do, do it. Because if you're constantly, in the business, you're constantly on the hamster wheel, and you can't have time to think about the future or the past or where you're at or your relevance within the competitive market, because you're running on the wheel. And so I try to make sure and value the time that I have off the wheel, to come up with my best ideas and to really be able to move forward as a business owner, but, and as a climber as well. I mean, I would say that one of the most beautiful things about climbing is that every single time you climb, whether you succeed or not, you're learning something. You are getting better. And I think that a lot of people get caught up in this idea that, like, oh, I keep trying this and that and it doesn't work. But it's like, that's the process. Whether you're winning or losing, that's the process. And so to bring it back to the foundation element of it, for me, climbing and being in flow state allows my well of creativity to be replenished so that I can draw from that outside of the environment or the wheel of the business that I've created. So that's really the big correlation right there. Making the time, prioritizing the time, spending time with my wife replenishes that well. Having a great conversation with awesome people like yourself replenishes that well. So prioritizing the things that help that foundation grow is going to allow you to build at 50 stories high straight to the freaking moon, and that's kind of how I see it.
Logan, I'm so stoked for some future conversation to talk about your empire you're going to build high straight to the moon. As we kind of begin to wrap up our conversation today, do you have any more wisdom about Flowstate or just life in general that you'd like to impart on our listeners here?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the last thing that I would try to kind of leave everybody with, and I really hope that everyone watching this gets something good out of it. I want to talk just really quickly about grit. You got to have grit. You got to have grit. Passion and self-awareness. I mean, these are all fun words to say, hard things to do. And I will say that, grit, and what I mean by that is just constant, relentless perseverance, regardless of what might be seeming to be doom and gloom, is absolutely required. And through that, I think that we gain the most benefit because we learn the most about ourselves through the struggle, not through the success. So, for anybody out there that's listening to this thing, sometimes it feels like life is just rolling over you, but just know that that's a part of your process, just as I fall off of a hold, but the one time that I stick it all connects. And that's kind of what we're all chasing, right? We want to connect. And I guess where that all correlates is that, we all choose to look through life through a particular lens. And sometimes it's not about changing out that lens. It's about cleaning that lens, get that lens spotless. And the way that we, what I would consider the dust on that lens is really how you talk about yourself and the emotional cues that lead you to your decision making. So, I think that, being able to see the world clearly and thus see yourself is really paramount to the success. And I think that sometimes it's easy for me to say, oh, look where I'm at now, I'm doing so well. But, and as in depth, Scott, I've come really far from really very pretty minimal standards. And, so everybody's on that journey. Respect that to everybody. Don't worry about changing out your lens. Just try cleaning it out first. And what I mean by that is just think about how you talk to yourself and how you treat other people, because these are all very primal things. And there's no excuse to not hold yourself to a high standard, but also to, exude patience and humility to other people, because life is a team sport, and that really will drive you forward. And we need other people to succeed, and we also need to treat ourselves like we would treat our friends, because that will take you far, definitely.
Hey, Logan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and so many of these critical principles to success and just living a peaceful life with us today. If any of our listeners want to find more about your awesome business, Basecamp, where can they find Basecamp online, or where can they find it in Colorado? And can you just share with us some of the new and exciting developments at your company?
Yeah, we've got a lot of amazing things happening here at Basecamp Ouray. We're located in Ouray, Colorado. If you're familiar with Colorado, we're kind of in the southwest corner there, down by Telluride, Durango. Beautiful San Juan Mountains that we're surrounded by. So definitely come by our shop. Doors always open. We'd love to see you. You can definitely find us at basecampouray.com, and you can book an awesome adventure. And who knows, I might be the one taking you out. So definitely check us out there, basecampouray.com. You can find us on Facebook, Basecamp Ouray. Instagram is Basecamp Ouray as well. We'd love to hear from you, whether it's about climbing, about life, about your journey. We're super psyched on all of it. What was the other part of that, Scott?
Yeah, you have some exciting developments in your business.
The exciting development.
Never seen before in Colorado.
Never seen before. We just built a really a groundbreaking new via ferrata. If you're not familiar with via ferratas, it's a mixture between hiking and climbing using metal rungs and a cable, so you can feel like a climber without having to take the risk of rock climbing. So it's a great way to experience the mountains. This new Via Ferrata that we built is it really is groundbreaking. Of over 1,500 feet of vertical gain, one of the longest bridges on Via Ferrata in North America. Definitely a very unique Via Ferrata. You travel through an old mining site, through an old mining portal, and into a blacksmith shop. And yeah, it's an amazing experience. I'm super excited about it. Definitely stay tuned on our website for more information about that. We are hoping to launch that spring of 22. So we'll be taking early reservations to get on to that new Via Ferrata. And as always, here at Base Camp, we say your adventure starts here. So definitely get in contact with us. And yeah, we look forward to, doing what we do.
Hey, Logan, thank you so much for tuning in today and sharing this episode of Peak Prosper Expert Interviews with us. For our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope that you got tremendous value out of this show. Drop some comments below and let us know what helped you out so that we can create more content around what's helping you create the life of your dreams. Have a great day. Peace, everybody.
Peace.